All right, we are live. Another QB Spotlight live show, and today we're talking about the SEC. Like we've talked about in the past video or videos, we're transitioning just to mainly SEC quarterbacks. And today we're going to preview the Week 8 matchups. We're going to dive into each matchup and do a little deep dive on each quarterback, talk about the keys that each SEC quarterback needs to have this upcoming week. And so we'll dive into that. We are going to talk some group of five quarterbacks, and we'll open the board if anyone wants to talk any of the quarterback matchups. We'll open that up as well, but we'll focus on the SEC quarterback. So if this is your first time tuning in, thank you. We're just a big quarterback hub. We talk all things quarterbacks. We do quarterback breakdowns. We don't do them as much, the film breakdowns, is because YouTube kind of makes it tough for us to do that. But we're going to try to work around that if we can. Maybe even do some breakdowns on these live shows. We're just a big quarterback hub. We have previews, recaps, quarterbacks that come on the show and talk about their experience, coaches, all that fun stuff. So if you like that type of content, please consider subscribing, like the video, share, all that fun stuff. So we got four SEC games, well, five SEC games, but four SEC matchups where both teams are in the SEC. So we're going to dive right into it. And if you're watching this after the show, let us know your thoughts in the comments below, or after the live show, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We don't really get too many people on the live, but that's okay. So we'll just keep it light here. And again, if you're rewatching this, just let us know some other quarterbacks you want to talk about in the future. So let's dive into it. Let's talk Tennessee and Alabama. Let's dive into the keys for Jalen Milroe. Then we'll dive into the keys for Joe Milton. But let's start off with Jalen Milroe first. What are the keys for success for Milroe to have against Tennessee, against a defense that's much improved, against a defense that has proved, I think, this season that they weren't just good against lower level competition, right? They weren't just good against UVA and the FCS. They've been solid against pretty much every team they faced. So I think that Alabama is facing a pretty good defense. And so what does Jalen Milroe need to do? I got three keys for Jalen Milroe, and we'll go into a little bit of detail on those keys. But key number one, I think, to win, continued deep throws, continued success throwing the ball deep. Now, if they take the deep throws away, if you don't hit on the deep balls, then maybe you have to adjust. But he's shown the ability to hit on deep throws and deep balls, explosive plays every single game. So continue deep throws. I think he's going to have to run the ball some. He hasn't done that in the past few games as much. So run the ball some, then avoid sacks. I think that's a big key. So when we talk about the deep throws, let's go back to the first key. When we talk about the success in the deep throws, it's what the offense relies on. And that's okay to rely on explosive plays, right? Like some offenses rely on high completion throws. Some offenses relies on short plays and short pass plays to set up the deep throws. I think that's ideal, right? But so far this season, offensively, Jalen Milroe, the Alabama offense, has relied on those explosive plays. Like even last week against Arkansas, they had a great first half offensively. Second half, didn't do anything. I think they had two completions the whole second half. But the first half, they had a great first half. I think Milroe had four completions of the ball being thrown in the air 20 yards or more downfield. And the week before that against A&M, he was 6 of 8 on balls thrown in the air 20 yards or more downfield, right? So I think to have success against Tennessee, I think you have to hit on some of those deep shots. And I'm pretty confident that the opportunity will be there despite Tennessee's defense being that much more improved. All right. Last thought on that. Max Johnson was able to hit on a few deep throws against Tennessee last week. He had 3. Milroe has had 10 the past 2 games against Arkansas. Excuse me, got a fly here. Get that fly away. But against Arkansas and then against Texas A&M, Milroe's been able to hit on 10 plays or throws of 20 yards or more, right? So I think relying on those explosive plays, I think it's a good thing. Of course, you want to hit the short stuff. You want to be accurate all over the field, intermediate throws. But for their offense to roll, you got to hit the deep throws. Number one, hit the deep throws. 2, I think he's going to have to run the ball. Or I would like to see him run the ball a bit more. Maybe you don't have to because the past 2 games you won with negative yards rushing from Milroe. I think negative 30-something. A lot of that was sacks, but still negative 30-something against A&M, and he was in the negative yards against Arkansas. But I think getting him involved more in the run game could maybe slow down that pass rush. So number 2 and 3 kind of go hand in hand, running the ball and avoiding sacks. But I do think running the ball from Miller, maybe a few more design runs can help with avoiding the sacks, right? But I think offensively it can help get some stuff going. It's just something you haven't seen as much the past few games, right? So it's almost like sorry, I got this fly. For me, it's almost like going back to Mississippi State, where they won 40-17, and he only had to pass 12 times or something. He was like 10 to 12, something like that, right? Super efficient, and he was able to get going on the run game as well. So I think running the ball can be an effective measure against Tennessee, and maybe slow down the pass rush, because I think it's crucial. The third key, I think, may be the most crucial key. Yeah, you got to hit the deep throws. Yeah, I think running the ball can be good. But 3, I think avoiding sacks is huge. If you avoid those, gosh, this fly, I apologize, but avoiding those long down distances that can lead to interceptions, especially against a good Tennessee defense. Now, they've been able to overcome those sacks the past few weeks against Arkansas, against A&M, but they've been really, really close games. You played an Arkansas team, you won by 3 points, and you were up by almost 3 touchdowns at one point in the game. They were able to come back. I think you got to avoid the sacks. You beat A&M in a really close, hard-fought game, but you had like 7 sacks in that game or something crazy, something like that. Maybe 6 sacks. I think A&M had 6 sacks in that game. So I think you got to avoid sacks, because even though you haven't had the back-breaking interceptions that you had against Texas, you still had a pick against A&M. Was it 1 or 2 picks? I think it was 1, but it was in the end zone. It was points were off the board because of interception. So I think avoiding sacks, not just for the negative yardage, but I think that when you avoid sacks, you avoid those long down distances that lead to interceptions, and being able to, even though you're able to overcome that the past 2 games, it's not a habit you want to necessarily get back into, right? So I think main keys, deep throws. The offense relies on the success of the deep throws. So I think you're going to have to rely on that again, right? You're going to have to hit on some deep throws, some explosive plays. Run the ball. Again, it doesn't have to be the key guy in the run game. I just think you do it just enough. It doesn't have to be a ton, but just enough. And just enough to slow down the pass rush, because to the third key, avoiding the sacks. Gosh, this fly. Did I catch it? No. Avoiding the sacks are going to equal avoiding long down and distances that can potentially lead to turnovers. So those are the keys for Jalen Milroe. All right, let's talk Joe Milton, Tennessee quarterback. The keys for him, the keys for success against the Alabama defense. And Alabama defense that has been playing really, really good as of late. An Alabama defense that last week against Arkansas didn't allow any explosive plays, didn't allow any pass plays over 20 yards. So it kind of goes hand in hand with what Joe Milton, the Tennessee offense, has struggled with so far this season, and that's explosive plays. That's throwing the ball downfield. That's attacking vertically. So they got that going for them for Alabama's defense, right? So, gosh, this fly, I apologize. So let's talk Joe Milton, the keys. I think actually is just one big key. I think he's going to have to hit on accurate throws. He's going to have to have accurate throws. Actually, let's go 2 keys. Accurate throws, and then making some really, really tough throws to win the game. I think those are the big 2 keys. He's going to have to hit accurate throws throughout, and then make some really, really tough throws to win the game. Last year, when Hendon Hooker was able to have that big game against Alabama and win, they pushed the ball downfield and did it often. He had some big explosive plays, and they didn't really throw the ball behind line of scrimmage. You know why? Because Alabama's defense is so good and talented and fast. Like, they'll give you those throws. I'm sorry about this fly. I know it's annoying. But Alabama will give you those throws and trust their defenders to tackle the guys in space. So Hendon Hooker last year against Alabama's defense, he was 5-9 on balls thrown in the air 20 yards or more. That's really, really good. For perspective, I think Milton has like 9 completions this whole season on balls thrown 20 yards or more downfield. I could be wrong, but something like that. But anyways, Hendon Hooker was 5-9 on those passes, and only 4 completions or behind the line of scrimmage. If you go look at Milton's stats right now, 50 completions of the 14 completions, so almost half of his whole completions, the ball's been thrown behind the line of scrimmage. So to win this game, I think you're going to have to hit on a few deep throws. I think the best example I'll use is Quinn Ewers, the Texas quarterback. Going into the game against Bama, he was struggling throwing the ball deep. He struggled against Rice. But he hit on some really, really tough throws against Alabama's defense. Some throws that Alabama actually defended really well, but he was so accurate and precise in those throws that Quinn Ewers in Texas was able to have success. So I think for Milton to have success, it's almost that same approach. You have to make some really, really tough throws. You're going to have to hit on a few deep throws too. I don't think you can go 0 attempts or 0 completions of balls thrown in the air 20 yards or more and beat Alabama. I just think they're going to give you all that space in front, maybe let you have a field goal, maybe let you, force the run game to beat you. or just they're going to try to stop the run game, keep everything in front, right, and see if Milton can beat you, right? So I think to win, he's going to have to hit on those deep throws. He's going to have to hit on a few really tough throws to make, and then just be accurate and everything else. Like even on the throws this whole season, and if you watch this channel, you know that I've actually thought Milton's played better than giving credit for. But just because he's played better than given credit for doesn't mean he's playing great, right? Or doesn't mean there's not stuff to improve on. I think he can be the accurate department is definitely something you want to work on. And it's not even necessarily like missing throws. It's just, hitting a guy in stride as opposed to the receiver having to catch behind him and not being able to get some yak yards, right? That's what I talk about with accurate throws. So to beat Alabama, I think you're going to have to be accurate. I think you're going to have to hit on a few really deep throws or a few really tough throws that are defended really, really well. All right, so that's Tennessee, Alabama, the keys for Jalen Milroe, and the keys for Joe Milton. Again, if you like this type of stuff, like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. If you got any comments or quarterbacks you want to hit on at some point in the show, let us know. Let's keep going on. Let's hit on, who do you want to hit on next? Let's go South Carolina, Mizzou. Two teams I've really enjoyed watching, and Mizzou quarterback Brady Cook I've really enjoyed watching. So let's talk with Brady Cook first and talk about the keys to success against South Carolina, because offensively, I think this could be a bounce back, get back game for Mizzou against South Carolina's defense. Now, I know Mizzou scored 38 points last week, but it wasn't a pretty game offensively or for Brady Cook. I thought he's actually played pretty well the whole season. I think he's played really well, and then just didn't have his best game last week. But to me, those are my favorite games when you're evaluating a quarterback, like seeing someone not have a great game but still find a way to win. Right? Those to me stand out. It's not about the stats. It wasn't a great box score game, but he was able to find a way to win and have some success, even though it wasn't his best game. So coming off that, you're going up against a South Carolina defense that is giving up 321 yards passing in the air. Right? They just gave up. Gave up all 400 something yards against Graham Mertz. Like Graham Mertz had a career day, the Florida quarterback, against South Carolina's defense. The defense has given up 41 points the past 2 weeks to Florida, to Tennessee, and before that they gave up 30 to a Mississippi State offense that's been struggling. Now South Carolina won that game, but they still gave up some points and some yardage. That was like Will Rogers' best game of the season, I believe. He put up some good numbers there. So the keys, man, I think this could be a bounce back game for Brady Cook, especially against this defense. But the keys, I think, get the ball out quick and deep shots. I think getting the ball out quick and taking some deep shots will equal to a bounce back game. I know that sounds kind of counterintuitive. Okay, get the ball out quick and throwing the ball deep. Sometimes you have to let the play develop, and I get it. So it's two different type of throws. But Brady Cook has been excellent. I think he leads the SEC in getting the ball out 2.5 seconds or less. That's quick. That's according to PFF. That means the ball is coming out quick. So what's the stat? Yeah, 60% of Brady Cook's dropbacks, the ball is out in 2.5 seconds. That's outstanding. So the ball is getting out quick. It's not letting the defense get a lot of pressure or wreck a bunch of havoc. And so in doing that, whenever he is able to take his time a little bit more, he's got a little bit more time, and he's able to hit the deep shots. And he's been really good at deep shots too. So yeah, he's been getting the ball out quick, but he's also been hitting deep throws and completing them and having accurate passes. He's third in the SEC on completions where the ball is thrown 20 yards or more in the air. He's just behind Jalen Daniels and Jalen Milroe, who are or Jalen Daniels playing superb football, and then Milroe's strength is those deep throws. So Brady Cook has done really, really good with those as well. Like we said, third in the SEC. He's got 16. Yep, 16 completions of throws 20 yards or more in the air. This game could be a shootout, and we're going to get into South Carolina. We're going to get into Spencer Rattler here in a second when we finish up with Cook. But this game could really be a shootout. But I think offensively, I think as a quarterback, I think this is a good bounce-back game. You're going up against a defense that has given up a lot of points, a lot of yards there. And I think as Cook is coming off his probably the worst game of the season, right? Like for sure, right? Yeah, Cook's coming off the worst game of the season. Up until this point, he's been playing really good football, so I expect a bounce-back game. Cook can also use his legs too as he's an athletic quarterback. But keys for Cook, keys for Brady Cook: continue to get the ball out quick like you've been doing, and then set up the deep shots, hit those deep shots, and trust that it's probably going to be a shootout game, but maybe your defense is better, so maybe you get the stops, right? But overall, and your defense is better, not maybe, but overall, I think for Brady Cook, keeping about him, keys, ball out quick, deep shots, in my opinion, that equals a bounce-back game for Brady Cook. All right, let's move on to Spencer Rattler. Let's talk about his keys and what he needs to do to have success and what he needs to do to keep South Carolina's offense or South Carolina in the game, right? What he needs to do to make sure he can go toe for toe against Mizzou if Mizzou is scoring these points, like we just talked about. If it is a shootout, what can South Carolina do? And for them to have success, I think Rattler's going to have a really good game. Let me take a quick swig of water, take a little quick break, and then we'll dive into Spencer Rattler. All right, so Spencer Rattler. Keys. To be honest, and if you watch the show, we've talked Rattler several times, and I think he's playing some good football. He's doing some really good things. I think scouts are liking how he's playing, especially under pressure. But it's the same key to me every week so far. It's a new team, new opponent, but same key, same focus for Rattler. And that's try to find a way to avoid sacks, like avoiding sacks, avoiding pressure, getting rid of the ball. Like, how do you go about doing that? Like, how do you slow down the pass rush? Because that is really the disruption of their offense. And it's not all on the offensive line or protection. Like, Rattler holds on to the ball. We're going to talk about that in a second. But still, you got to avoid sacks, avoid those long down distances like we talked about with Jalen Milroe. So Spencer Rattler, avoid sacks. How? I think number one, use your legs. It's like what you did last week against Florida. Not only did he use his legs to scramble, which was good, and he gained yards. I think it maybe slowed down the pass rush some, but he used his legs to buy time, staying within the pocket, rolling out. There were several really good throws that Rattler had against Florida last week, where he used his legs to buy time. One of his touchdown passes, he used his legs to buy time, deliver a good ball, throw a touchdown, had several rollouts where he's throwing outside the pocket, and then he did run too. Like, when pressure came, he did run. I think there's something about quarterbacks using their legs, running and buying time, that can slow down the pass rush and just get the defense second guessing and overthinking things at time. So I think slowing down the pass rush by using your legs is number one. Number two, get the ball out quick. Like, help your offensive line. I don't know if it's on Rattler because of plays are developing slow, or if he's holding on the ball too long, or if the receivers aren't separating. There could be a ton of different things why the ball's not coming out as quick as maybe it can be. He's kind of the opposite of Brady Cook, actually, if you compare him to Cook. So Cook, 60% of his dropbacks, so 60% of the throws that are of the plays that are meant to be throws or passing plays, the ball is out in 2.5 seconds. Only 38% of Rattler's dropbacks, the ball is out 2.5 seconds or less. So he's holding on the ball a long time. Again, maybe not a bad thing. Maybe the offense calls for it. Maybe it's a slow developing play. But maybe the offense, to protect him and to get the ball out quick, or to avoid these sacks and avoid these long down distances, look at some other type of schemes and play calls where the ball is getting out quick. But at the end of the day, like, offensively, I still think, like, South Carolina's played pretty good offense. They played great against Florida last week. They just weren't able to get the dub. You know, when you I think Rattler had like 310 yards passing, 4 passing touchdowns, had a pick at the end of the game. But, you know, offensively, when you score close to 40 points, right? Something crazy like that. I think it was close to 40 points. They scored like 37, 35. I don't remember exactly, but when you score that, like, offensively, you've done your job. So even though, you know, we talked about avoiding these sacks, like, still, like, Rattler's found a way to do it, even getting pressure and getting hit. But I think offensively, if they do this, it's good. It's a good key to the game. And the last key, I think, is just managing the pocket, something he does well, and something that goes hand in hand with using his legs. Managing the pocket well. He has real good pocket presence. Man, if I had film, that's what I'll do next time. I'll get some film and actually show it on the live show. I know we don't have a ton of people watching, but just so when people are rewatching it, they can come and see that. All right, so keys for Rattler: avoiding the sacks, how, use your legs, get the ball out quick, and then manage the pocket. All right, so let's dive into a few more. We got Ole Miss and Auburn, Mississippi State and Arkansas, and then we'll briefly touch on Jaden Daniels against Army. Let's go ahead and let's get Ole Miss and Auburn, and we'll mainly just talk about Jackson Dart here and the keys for Dart. So let's get into it. Jackson Dart, keys to the game, keys to have success against Auburn. I think there's a few things, but I think it comes down to, obviously, this is going to be obvious and cliche, but especially for Ole Miss's offense, like, getting the run game going can be huge. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to do with the quarterback, you know, obviously, but with the offense Ole Miss runs and with how Dart is as a player and Kiffin is as a play caller, if you can get him running some, get the running, that could help the running game get going from the actual running backs. And then doing that could help set up the passing game, because the offense relies so much on play action. And that's the point number two, right? You want to get the run game going so you can utilize play action. Jackson Dart is really, really good off play action. is actually superb on play action, getting the defenders out of position, making some throwing lanes easier, getting the defenders creeping up a little bit, or getting the ball up quick off a quick RPO, right? He's done really good on play actions, especially compared to straight drop back passes. So let's look at these numbers real quick so you can kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about and why I think the run game is so valuable and important for Ole Miss's offense. Going up against a good Auburn defense, I might say. An Auburn defense has played everyone pretty tough besides LSU. Now LSU's offense has had their way with everyone. But with that said, let's look at these numbers. So on play action, and 50% of the dropbacks are play action. So it's pretty even. Play action and straight dropbacks. But on play action, Jackson Dart, here's his numbers. At that 1,099 yards passing, he has 87 attempts, 6 passing touchdowns, 1 interception. His completion percentage is 67.8, and his yards per attempt are 12.6. So all the big throws, all the deep throws, all the intermediate type throws are coming off of play action. You can see that those are really, really good numbers, right? So play action, great. Okay, straight drop, 59%, his completion percentage is 59%. Excuse me, I can't talk. Compared to play action is 67.8. So almost 9. That difference is almost 9%, which is really big. His yards per attempt on straight dropbacks are 6.6 compared to play action is 12.6. So 6.6. I mean that's almost double. That's a huge difference, right? So that means straight dropbacks, the ball's not going downfield. I don't know if it's tough reading the defense or what's going on, but just more comfortable play action, right? He has 6 touchdowns, 1 pick, only 538 yards passing, 81 attempts, right? So the attempts are very similar. Everything's really, really similar, actually. But you can just see how much better he is off play action. So the key for Jackson Dart, to get the run game going, even with him utilizing his legs and using the play action. The key number 2, second key, something he's done really, really good and something he's done really, really well is distributing the whole field. Continue to distribute the ball around the whole field. I'm not necessarily talking about deep shots. That's not something they've done their offense a ton. He has 9 completions of balls thrown there 20 yards or more, which isn't a ton. It's maybe just enough. I think against LSU, whenever they racked up all those crazy yards numbers, he only had 1. So that shows us, that tells us, like, for their offense to succeed and run, they don't need that. Can it happen? Sure. Yeah, it happens at times. But they really live in those like 10 to 15 yard throws, like those intermediate, medium range type shots as where they live at, right? So you don't need a lot of deep throws, right? What I mean when I talk about distributing the ball throughout the whole field is like a width thing. So he does a really good job throwing the ball middle of the field and outside. Really good job throwing between the numbers and outside the numbers, right? So the numbers are pretty similar. And you usually find quarterbacks throw more between the numbers and outside the numbers, and that's normal. But you find a lot of quarterbacks that maybe have struggled or just in general, sometimes it can be too much between the numbers because those throws are easier. But Jackson Dart, between the numbers, he has 928 yards passing. Outside the numbers so far, he has 708 yards passing. So, yeah, he's got more yards thrown between the numbers, but it's still pretty similar numbers. Like, it's nothing that's, like, outrageously different, So I think to continue to have success against Auburn, make them defend the whole field. That's why I think it's important to distribute the ball, because now the defense can't just hone in on the middle of the field. They know, okay, he can make those throws outside the numbers. He can make these throws right side, left side of the field. That's why I think it's important for Jackson Dart, right? So keys for Dart against Auburn, get the run game going. Yes, the running game with the actual running backs, but maybe get him involved with the run game. That can open up the run game with the backs, and then that can open up the play action. We discussed how much better he is off play action, and that's just the offense that Ole Miss runs. And then continue to distribute the ball throughout the whole field. Make Auburn's defense have to cover a lot of grass, right? And again, Auburn's defense has played pretty well defensively. All right, so let's go to Auburn's quarterbacks. Let me get another quick sip of water. All right, Auburn's quarterbacks. Let's get into it. So Peyton Thorne, Robbie Ashford. We won't spend too much time just because there's a lot of improvements that need to be made. I'd imagine it's a 2-quarterback system again, unless something else changes. Thorne had some good throws at times last week against LSU, but there was no consistency. Ashford, he provides a little more up tempo. He's running a little bit more. The offense is going to get going at some point. The question is it going to get going this year or next year, right? Is it going to go this year or down the road? Can this be their get right game? We'll see, right? Can they get a few shots? Who knows? But yeah, so we'll see with the Auburn quarterbacks. There's really nothing to add except improvement needs to be made, right, for Peyton Thorne and Robbie Ashford. All right, let's get Mississippi State, Arkansas, and then we'll hit on Jane Daniels and then hit on some guys at the very end. All right, Mississippi State, Arkansas. Let's start with KJ Jefferson. Let's talk what Jefferson needs to do to have success against Mississippi State's defense, what he needs to do to help the offense get going, right? Now, if you just looked at Jefferson's numbers this year, you'd be like, okay, it's not horrible. Like, it's fine, and maybe it is fine. Maybe he's just playing fine. But coming into the season, he was thought to be the best or one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC. Third-year starter, one of the only returning starting quarterbacks in the SEC, and so far just hasn't happened, right? Like if you compare his numbers to last year, like passing touchdowns and stuff and yards aren't that difference. The biggest difference compared to last year are the interceptions. He already has 6 interceptions so far this season. In 2021, this point in the season, I think he had 3, and he didn't have any more the rest of the season to the bowl game. Then 2022, last year, I think he only had 1 or 2, if I'm not mistaken, the first 7 games of the season. The interceptions have picked up. Now, we're not going to talk about why necessarily. That's a different video. I do want to talk about the keys, right? I do want to talk about the keys for Jefferson because I think changes can be made where these interceptions go down. I think can start this week against Mississippi State. So what are the keys for KJ Jefferson and how can they just get the offense going, be more consistent and kind of fix the offense, if you will? Well, I think it comes down to 3 keys right now. I think it's spreading the ball out more, distributing the ball out more to the whole field. I think it's playing with some tempo, using some up tempo. I think we saw it last week against Alabama when they got up tempo some. When KJ made some of those big plays, they had some success in offense. So I think it's getting up tempo and a little throwing the ball downfield more. I need some more downfield attempts, right? That can go hand in hand with distributing the ball through the entire field, but we need some vertical shots. I think we need to try, like Arkansas offensively just needs to try something new, I think. Try something new. That's why I think shots downfield, go up tempo. And if it doesn't work, if you have like 2 or 3 straight 3-and-outs, well, in my opinion, in my thought, it's basically the same result as it has been so far this season, where it's inconsistent in offense, a few plays here, a few plays there, and then you have some 3-and-outs. Like against Alabama, I think the whole second quarter and the majority of the third quarter to the very end, they didn't get a first down or something crazy like that, right? So I think trying something new, and if it doesn't work, okay, no big deal. The offense hasn't worked that great this season so far anyways, so let's just try something new. And last week against, like why I think it's so important to have some deep shots, this opens up the offense even if you don't hit them. Against Alabama last week, they had 0 throws longer than 20 yards downfield. They had 0 completions, and I'm pretty sure they had 0 attempts. Which now the defense can come in. Now the defense can they're not worried about any deep shot. Like the field is cut in half essentially. All but 2 of his 14 completions were 9 yards or shorter. So he only had 2 completions of his 14 completions that were thrown in the air over 10 yards. This is not going to get it. This is not going to happen in this type of offense, especially the run game is not rolling, right? You need the run game rolling. And I think it has, like offensively, like what we saw last week against Alabama, it was KJ improvising, KJ scrambling, KJ able to shake the defender off and dump it off. Like he had 3 really big plays, but besides that, offensively, they couldn't get anything going besides KJ improvising. So I think it's going to be a lot more than KJ improvising. Now against Mississippi State, this could be a get-right game. I really think it could. The defense in SEC play has given up 37 points, 41 points, and 40 points. It gave up 28 points to a MAC team, Western Michigan. So this could be the team that maybe gets you on the right foot. But I still think changes. I still think developments. I still think advancement of the offense can be made. So let's talk a little bit more detail on the keys that we talked about with KJ. I kind of talked about the offense in general, but let's just talk about the keys for KJ. So number 1, spreading the ball out. He has 969 yards passing between the numbers and 460-ish, 480 something yards passing outside the numbers. And just like we talked about with Jackson Dart, something that Dart did well was distributing the ball the whole field. This offense, the majority is middle of the field or between the numbers right now. So their defense doesn't have to cover the whole field as much or pay as much attention as if the offense was attacking the whole field, right? So I think spread the ball out. Try to get some more throws outside the numbers. It makes it tougher to defend if you have that, just like we talked about. It's easier to defend if the defense knows what part of the field you are attacking, right? So key number 1, spread the ball out. And then 2, get some up-tempo plays. I think getting up-tempo can, a quarterback like KJ, a quarterback who's used to that, it gets him comfortable a bit, right? And when you get him comfortable, the whole offense can be comfortable. And the third key, downfield throws. We just talked about the stats that there really weren't any downfield throws last week against Alabama. And I think KJ is an accurate quarterback. Y'all, anyone that watches this channel knows I like KJ. I think he's got a lot of potential. I still think you can pull out the 2022, 2021 playing style, but you have to make some changes, right? So keys for KJ, keys for success for Arkansas's offense and KJ Jefferson against Mississippi State: spread the ball out, use some up-tempo, downfield attempts. Again, trying some new things. If it doesn't work, well, no big deal. It gets you right back to where you were. All right, real quick, we'll talk Mississippi State quarterbacks. I don't know who's starting right now. Will Rogers, and then what is it, Mike Wright, right? The Vandy quarterback. Rogers got injured game or two ago. I'm not sure who's back. As of now, according to this video, I have no idea who is starting. It hasn't been reported yet. Rogers so far in only one real good game, but besides that, neither the offense has struggled. All right, so that's pretty much all we got for SEC. Yeah, we got Jaden Daniels and LSU playing Army. I don't have a ton to add except, hey, just avoid the slow start. Like so far, there's been no indication of that happening, but you never want to take an opponent lightly. All right, so we'll finish up real quick. That's the SEC talk again, doing a lot of SEC theme. Okay, let's get some. Ohio State plays Penn State. Florida State, Duke. Those are some other good games, some matchups we'll be watching quarterback-wise. Kyle McCord, Drew Aller. Can Penn State open up the offense a bit more? Is Drew Aller going to push the ball downfield? And then Kyle McCord played a little bit better against Purdue. It's been kind of up and down, right? It hasn't been as sexy as maybe Ohio State fans want it to be. Then Jordan Travis, looking forward to watching him play against a pretty tough Duke defense. All right, last quarterbacks that we'll hit up real quick. Some group of 5 quarterbacks. Always give the G5 love. James Madison and Marshall. Jordan McLeod playing really good quarterback for James Madison, coming off a really good game against Georgia Southern. They play this Thursday or Friday, I think Thursday. And then Marshall, Cam Fancher, their quarterback, a guy who I think has potential, good offense. He's just been inconsistent. If he can find some consistency, Marshall could make a run this season for sure. So for Cam Fancher, be consistent. Jordan McLeod's been lights out. UNT, Tulane, this could be a fun game. North Texas, Chandler Rogers playing really good quarterback for North Texas, coming off a really good game. He's going to have a really good game to beat Tulane. Michael Pratt, Tulane, they're solid, right? They look good against was it Memphis last week, right? So should be a good quarterback matchup there. Colorado State, UNLV playing their number 2 guy, who's probably now the number 1. Just with the success they've been having. And then Braden Fallon, Nicolosi, like who doesn't want to watch him play? He just slings it. Hail Mary throw, winning the game against Boise State last week. Awesome stuff. Last G5 game we'll talk about: Coastal Carolina, Arkansas State. Grayson McCall coming off a good game, a good win against App State last week. They're starting to look like themselves again. And then we got Ark State, Jalen Rayner. Good quarterback. They found some success with Rayner at the quarterback position. Had a rough game against Troy, but there's some talent there, some stuff to like about Jalen Rayner. So it could be an underrated, kind of fun little quarterback matchup. All right, that's all we got. A little live, not a ton of people, but go back, watch this show. If you like it, like, subscribe, all that stuff, and follow along. That's all I got. We'll see you next time. Peace.